Thank you, Margaret Moran, Brent Wilkes, for the invitation to attend today. I am so humbled to stand before you and be part of this exposition. And I want to say to each and every one of you in the audience today, thank you and welcome to Salt Lake City. Thank you, LULAC, for being here. I'd like to tell you about a man I worked with at the police department. Jerry was a great example to me, and I looked to him while I advanced through the ranks. Jerry grew up right here in Salt Lake City. After high school, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and became an air defense paratrooper for 3 years when he returned to Salt Lake City. Once home, Jerry took advantage of the federal PEP program and hired on with the fire department. That is, for one day, until he learned he had to climb a ladder, at which time he decided the police department was the place for him. Jerry spent 32 years as a police officer for Salt Lake City and retired in 2004, following a very successful career. Jerry was Officer of the Year in 1992. He was awarded the Meritorious Service Award and participated in solving over 100 homicide cases here in Salt Lake City. And when Jerry was 3 days old, he and his mother were deported. Our department could have missed out on having an outstanding officer and someone that helped reach the Latino community here in Salt Lake City. Thankfully, he and I are still friends, and he even agreed to come with me today. Please stand up, Jerry. Let me introduce Sergeant Jerry Mendez, retired. Jerry, I have to question just a couple things. You can jump out of an airplane, but you can't climb a ladder? I have to tell you this story too. Jerry's a very smart, thinking individual. He had to be a successful detective with us. But when Jerry went to do his physical to become a police officer, at that time we had a height and weight requirement. Jerry knew that he might be close, so he went and bought 3 packs of insoles and put them in his boots. Not in his boots, between his socks and his feet, because he's a smart guy. He knew he'd have to take those boots off. Recent events involving police use of force in cities like Ferguson, Missouri, and New York City have drawn into sharp focus the diverse issues that reflect the climate of social discord in our nation. Issues of personal bias, racial profiling, and excessive force only magnified when carried out by a uniformed officer sworn to defend citizens, all citizens, and uphold the local laws. In a nation swelling with social unrest surrounding the actions of law enforcement, this city of 191,000 isn't as diverse as many. Just over 65% of the population identify as white, 22.3% Hispanic, 4% Asian, and 2.7% Black, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. But like any urban area, Salt Lake City has its share of tensions between police and residents. And we work to minimize conflicts by keeping the 2 constant goals in mind. We humanize policing, and we ensure that officers do their jobs without bias. The goal of the police agency should always be to prevent crime from occurring, not simply respond and document the victimization of our citizens and neighborhoods. In order to effectively prevent crime, police officers must maintain the trust of the community we serve. If police officers were forced to detect and detain immigrants who are here without authorization, this trust is easily broken. Inappropriately interjects bias into our profession and makes the compassionate service provided daily by police officers throughout this country less legitimate. Requiring police to enforce federal immigration law undermine the trust and cooperation with immigrant communities, which are essential elements of community-oriented policing. Removing fear of deportation from the equation will improve public safety by allowing anyone, even undocumented immigrants, to emerge from the shadows and report crime. Criminal activity thrives on the weak, the scared, the marginalized, those we are charged to protect. When criminals know their victims are afraid or unwilling to cooperate with police, they act with impunity. When Jerry was 5, his father, an American citizen, was taken from his family and deported to Mexico in accordance with Operation Wetback. Because he could not prove his citizenship, his family was torn apart. He was a hardworking, valuable member of his community, a necessary income earner for his family. Jerry's mother and grandfather were illegal immigrants and afraid of the police. They didn't feel comfortable going to the local agencies to rectify the wrongful deportation, lest they be deported as well. Jerry worked very hard to prove that his father had been born in the United States and to have him return to Utah. Throughout his childhood and adolescence, Jerry experienced racial profiling, discrimination, and fear of local authority. When he went to kindergarten, Jerry only spoke Spanish, but he was not allowed to speak Spanish. He had to speak English. This put him about 5 years behind everybody else. When he went to accordion lessons, he had to sit outside on the back porch so that no one would see that he a Hispanic child, was receiving these lessons. But in true Jerry fashion, when he was in junior high in his Spanish class, he continually corrected his Spanish teacher to the point this teacher flunked him and he had to take summer school. This is not the kind of community I want to support, nor would it normally produce such a great officer. I believe we can only do our jobs effectively when we have the support and trust of the community in which we serve. We want to work with you. We know that it takes trust and respect from us to help forge that kind of relationship with any community. In police work, every second matters. Every relationship with community member counts. We shouldn't be forced to waste time or lose trust with the communities we serve. Every individual, regardless of race, nationality, religion, or sexual orientation, is entitled to equal access to law enforcement resources. The measure of successful immigration reform should never be based upon the number of violators detained, but upon the number of new citizens we welcome to our nation. Immigration is not a criminal issue. Local police should no more enforce immigration law than it would enforce tax laws. Jerry and I want to do it better. We have a better way. We want to invest in a diverse police department and breed cultural awareness. Profiling will continue, unfortunately, but we will continue to train men and women that this is not the way Salt Lake City would conduct business. We will not ask you to prove if you are an American. Our public service is to all publics. Everyone in need of assistance from us will receive it unequivocally. You have my word on that. Thank you for your support. Thank you, LULAC, for all you do for our community. Thank you.